So I already made a few videos about this little camera here and why I love it so much. But there's always something to complain about, so today I want to talk about what I don't like about my precious little companion here. Let's dive right into it. Just let me fix that. Yeah. For some of my shots I want a decent amount of motion blur, like in this example here. I implemented this into my style after I thought a lot about privacy, especially of those people who are seen in my photographies. I had to figure out how my photos can visualize street life without revealing people's faces and identities to my audience. Using a suitable shutter speed for achieving this blurry effect was the perfect solution for me, not only because of privacy, but also in a metaphorical way. In a fast-living society, no one really got time to just stand still, even for a moment. And that's a bit sad, isn't it? However, achieving this effect with the TZ96 turns out to be pretty difficult, and this has two reasons. The aperture and the performance of the ISO. The aperture of the fixed zoom lens goes up to f8. Combined with the lowest possible ISO value of 80 and a shutter speed of, let's say, 1/30th of a second, the result turns out to be heavily overexposed, especially at daytime. On a normal day with a normal amount of sunlight, the only option I got is to crank up the shutter speed. This brings back all the details and the highlights, but in the same time I lose the motion blur effect. As a result, people seem to be freezed and the feeling of motion and hurry gets lost. At this point it would be a no-brainer to put on an ND filter so the image gets darker without cranking up shutter speed. But for whatever reason, product designers seem to believe that no one really needs filters on compact cameras. That's just wrong. Adding a way to attach filters would be the #1 thing I would change about the TZ96. I mean, production-wise it would be so easy and the impact on creativity would be huge. Another topic that I already mentioned in other videos is the extremely bad noise behavior of this camera when it comes to bad lighting conditions. That's no surprise, since the sensor has to be extremely small. So small that even my smartphone got bigger camera sensors. Problem is, this camera needs this small sensor to be such a powerhouse in terms of size and zoom range. Increasing the size of the sensor would help with all the noise, but at the same time the camera has to be bigger or the zoom range has to be smaller, and I don't want to miss any of these features. What I'm willing to miss are those useless 21 megapixels. I mean, please give them pixels some air to breathe. 12 megapixels are totally enough for this camera. I mean, it's obvious that this isn't a high-end camera for professionals, so why all those pixels? If I had to choose between a better low-light performance or more resolution, I'd always choose the low-light performance, even if this means less pixels. I believe that this change would make this camera even more versatile, because right now this camera is pretty much useless after sunset.
Psst, Panasonic, are you open for a collaboration? I studied design.
Okay, I admit. The TZ96 isn't completely useless in dark conditions. In some specific moments, the built-in flash really can make a difference. But with the flash comes another problem of this camera, the flash's position. Actually, I'm not quite sure if this is even a real problem anymore, since I got used to it and sometimes even use it for my benefit. This is the camera, and this is the built-in flash. When holding the camera like this, which feels pretty natural to me, then there's a high chance the flash gets covered by my hand. This has annoyed me several times, but on the other hand, there are exceptions where only part of the flash was covered. That can result in interesting shapes of light and it sometimes creates unexpected compositions. But this isn't a reliable technique at all. If you watched my other videos, it's no secret that I absolutely adore this camera. The issues I talked about are valid, but they can't diminish my love for my little companion. But I'm also aware that these points may be a no-go for other photographers. Maybe you too. I've used this camera very intensively over the last years, so my expertise on this little brick is pretty high. That's why I feel responsible for showing you not only the advantages of this camera, but also the downsides. Anyway, thank you for your time and bye.